Rain lashed against the cracked pavement as Jason Monroe hurried down the dimly lit alley. The cold wind cut through his jacket, but he barely noticed. He had just finished his shift at the diner, another long, grueling night, when something caught his eye. A small, shivering dog crouched behind a dumpster, soaked and trembling. Jason knelt, his heart aching at the sight. The dog, golden-furred but matted with dirt, flinched but didn't run. Its eyes, deep brown pools, stared at him with something almost human. "It's okay, buddy," Jason whispered, extending his hand. "I won't hurt you." To his surprise, the dog didn't growl. Instead, it let out a low whimper, as if pleading for help. Jason carried the dog home, cradling it against his chest. His tiny apartment wasn't much, just a one-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and second-hand furniture, but it was warm, safe. After drying the dog with an old towel, Jason examined it closely. No collar, no tags, just a small scar near its left ear. "Where'd you come from, huh?" he murmured. The dog simply stared at him, silent. He fetched a leftover piece of chicken from the fridge. The dog sniffed it but didn't eat. Instead, it watched Jason intently, curiously. Something about this dog was different. The next morning, Jason woke to an odd sight. The dog sat by the door, perfectly still, as if standing guard. Its gaze fixed on him. Jason chuckled. "You act like you're protecting me." But as he got ready for work, he noticed something strange. The dog seemed to anticipate his movements. When Jason reached for his keys, the dog had already turned to face the door. When he grabbed his shoes, the dog stepped aside, as if knowing exactly what he'd do next. It was eerie. Jason couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That night, after his shift, he took a detour down the alley where he had found the dog. That's when he saw him. A man, dressed in a dark coat, lurking near the dumpster. He was scanning the ground, his expression tense. Jason's stomach tightened. Was he looking for the dog? He stepped closer. The man's eyes flicked toward him, then away. Jason hesitated, then walked on. But a chill ran down his spine. Back home, Jason tested something. He placed 3 identical cups on the floor and hid a small treat under one. The dog watched carefully. Then, without hesitation, it tapped the correct cup with its paw. Jason's jaw dropped. Lucky guess. He tried again. Different positions. Different cups. Each time, the dog got it right. It wasn't just guessing. It knew. What kind of dog was this? The next day, Jason was about to leave for work when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. A deep voice spoke. "Have you seen a golden retriever in your area?" Jason's breath caught. His eyes darted to the dog, sitting by his feet. "No, Halit." Silence. Then a click. The line went dead. Jason's pulse pounded. Someone was looking for the dog. But why? That night, Jason took a different route home. He couldn't shake the paranoia creeping in. As he neared his apartment, he noticed a black SUV idling nearby. He hurried inside, bolting the door. The dog sat, ears perked, staring at the door as if sensing danger. Jason knelt beside it. "What are you caught up in, buddy?" The dog licked his hand, but remained silent. The next morning, Jason turned on the TV. A breaking news segment flashed. Missing government research dog. Last seen near downtown. Authorities urged the public to report any sightings. Jason's stomach twisted. The image on the screen, it was his dog. His heart raced. What had he gotten himself into? Panic set in. If the dog was some kind of government project, Jason knew he was in trouble. He packed a bag, grabbed some food, and whistled for the dog. "We need to go." The dog didn't hesitate, as if it understood. Jason took one last look at his apartment before slipping into the night. Jason and the dog made their way through the city, avoiding main roads. He had no plan, no idea where to go. But he knew one thing: whoever was after the dog wouldn't stop. And neither would he. Beside him, the dog, now named Echo. Jason's hands tightened around the straps of his backpack as he hurried through the darkened streets. Echo moved silently beside him, its golden fur barely visible in the dim light. He had seen enough movies to know this was bad. A missing government research dog? That meant they wouldn't just be looking, they'd be hunting. Echo paused, ears twitching. Jason stopped, his pulse spiking. Then he heard it, footsteps. Measured. Intentional. Someone was following them. Jason ducked into an alley, pressing his back against the cold brick wall. Echo stayed perfectly still, as if understanding the need for silence. A figure appeared at the alley entrance. The same man from before, the one who had been searching near the dumpster. Jason's breath caught. The man scanned the alley, eyes narrowed. Jason needed a distraction. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and tossed a coin across the pavement. It clattered loudly. The man jerked toward the sound, and Jason seized the moment, grabbing Echo and sprinting in the opposite direction. Jason ran until his legs burned. He didn't stop until he reached an old warehouse near the docks. Breathing heavily, he crouched behind a stack of crates, holding Echo close. "We can't keep running forever," he murmured. Echo licked his hand, his eyes filled with something eerily close to understanding. Jason exhaled. He needed a plan. And fast. A name popped into Jason's head, someone who might help. Maggie Carter. Investigative journalist. Known for exposing government secrets. Jason had met her once when she came into the diner, chasing a story. She was his only shot. Digging out his phone, he found her number and typed, "I need help. It's about a government experiment. Meet me at the old train yard. Midnight. Come alone." He hesitated, then hit send. At exactly midnight, Jason waited near the rusted tracks. The night air was thick with tension. A car pulled up. Maggie stepped out, her sharp eyes scanning the area. Jason stepped forward. "I don't have much time." Then Echo emerged from the shadows. Maggie's breath hitched. "Oh my God." She knelt, studying the dog. "This is the missing research dog, isn't it?" Jason nodded. "And people are willing to kill to get him back." Maggie pulled out her phone. "Tell me everything." Jason recounted the past few days, the phone call, the men following him, the strange intelligence Echo displayed. Maggie looked at Echo. "If this dog is part of a government experiment, that means..." Echo suddenly whined, stepping closer to her. Then, to Jason's shock, Echo tapped Maggie's phone with his paw, then sat and waited. Maggie's eyes widened. "Wait, is he telling me to record this?" Jason swallowed hard. "I think so." Before they could say another word, headlights flooded the train yard. Jason cursed. "They found us." Maggie stuffed her phone in her pocket. "Run. Now." They bolted toward an abandoned tunnel, Echo sprinting alongside them. Behind them, car doors slammed. Footsteps echoed. Jason barely made it into the tunnel before bullets ricocheted off the metal beams. This was no simple retrieval mission. They wanted Echo gone. Once safe, Maggie pulled out her laptop. If they're after Echo, that means there's a paper trail. She hacked into an old government database, typing furiously. Minutes later, her eyes widened. "Jason, Echo isn't just any dog. He was part of Project Sentinel." Jason's stomach twisted. "What's that?" Maggie's voice was grim. "A top-secret intelligence experiment. They weren't training Echo. They were enhancing him." Jason's hands clenched into fists. "You mean he was their lab rat?" Maggie nodded. "And if they want him back this badly, it means he knows something they don't want getting out." Maggie ran a test. She showed Echo a series of symbols on her screen, classified government codes. Echo tapped one with his paw. Maggie's jaw dropped. "Jason, he remembers." Jason stared at Echo, realization dawning. He wasn't just trained. He was programmed. Echo wagged his tail, but his eyes held something deep. Something human. Suddenly, Maggie's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, then answered. "Hello." Her face went pale. Jason grabbed her wrist. "Who is it?" She swallowed hard. "They're here." Before Jason could react, the door burst open. Men in black tactical gear stormed in. Jason turned to run, but stopped. Maggie wasn't moving. Her expression was blank. Jason's blood ran cold. She had set them up. Jason's world spun. His mind screamed at him to move, to fight, but betrayal paralyzed him. Maggie had set them up. Echo growled, stepping protectively in front of Jason. The men in tactical gear raised their weapons. "Take the dog alive," one of them ordered. Jason barely had time to react before something sharp pierced his neck. A tranquilizer dart. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was Echo snarling as the men closed in. Then, darkness. Jason woke to blinding white light. His wrists were bound. The chair beneath him was cold metal. A voice echoed in the sterile room. "Jason Carter, you've caused quite a mess." A tall man in a gray suit stepped forward. His expression was unreadable. Jason's throat was dry. "Where's Echo?" The man smiled, but there was no warmth. "Safe. For now." Jason glared. "What do you want?" The man's smile faded. "The truth." The man sat across from Jason, folding his hands. "Do you have any idea what that dog is?" Jason clenched his fists. "He's not a thing. His name is Echo." The man's expression darkened. "Echo was part of a classified experiment. He has information embedded in his brain, Data that could compromise national security. Jason's pulse pounded. What kind of data? The man leaned in. Let's just say, things the world was never meant to know. Jason's breath caught. Echo wasn't just smart, he was a living, breathing hard drive. And the government wanted to erase him. Jason refused to talk. He wouldn't betray Echo. But time was running out. A guard entered, muttering something to the man in the suit. The man nodded. Very well. He turned back to Jason. We don't need you anymore. Jason's blood ran cold. They were going to kill him. Before Jason could react, an alarm blared through the facility. Shouting, running footsteps. The door burst open, and there stood Echo. His golden fur was matted, his eyes blazing with determination. Behind him, a guard lay unconscious. Echo had come for him. Jason didn't waste a second. He ripped free of his restraints, adrenaline surging. Let's go, buddy. Echo led the way, weaving through the maze-like corridors. Sirens howled. Doors slammed. A voice boomed over the intercom. Do not let them escape. Jason skidded around a corner and ran straight into Maggie. Jason's fists clenched. You betrayed us. Maggie's face was pale. I had no choice. Jason shook his head. You sold us out. Maggie swallowed hard. And I regret it. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a key card. Jason hesitated. What is this? A way out. Jason studied her. He didn't trust her. But they had no time. The facility was in chaos. Jason and Echo ran through the corridors, alarms blaring behind them. Guards were closing in. Maggie led them to a restricted access door. This leads to the emergency exit. She swiped the key card. The door clicked open. Jason grabbed Echo and bolted. As they neared the exit, a dozen armed men blocked their path. Jason's heart pounded. There was no way out. Then Echo did something strange. He sat down. The guards hesitated. And then Echo spoke. It wasn't words, not exactly, but a sound, a series of tones and frequencies that vibrated through the air. The guards froze. Their expressions went blank. And then one by one they collapsed. Jason staggered back. What the hell? Maggie's voice trembled. It's the failsafe. Jason turned to her. Maggie swallowed hard. Echo isn't just intelligent. He's a biological weapon. Jason's mind reeled. No. He's just a dog. Maggie shook her head. No, Jason. He's more than that. She looked down at Echo, her voice barely a whisper. He was designed to take down enemies with sound alone. Jason's stomach turned. So that's why they want him back. Maggie nodded. If they control him, they control everything. Jason looked at Echo. The dog stared back, trusting him completely. He had a choice. Give Echo up, and let the government use him as a weapon. Or run, and risk everything. Jason made his decision. Let's go. They ran for the exit, Echo leading the way. Behind them, reinforcements poured into the corridor. Bullets whizzed past. Jason shoved Maggie through the door, Echo right behind. The facility's self-destruct alarm blared. They had minutes. Ahead was a steep cliffside. Below, rushing water. Jason hesitated. Maggie grabbed his arm. It's the only way. Jason turned to Echo. You ready? Echo wagged his tail. Jason took a deep breath. And jumped. The icy water hit like a freight train. Jason fought to the surface, gasping for air. Echo swam beside him, powerful and relentless. Maggie surfaced a few feet away, coughing. Above them, the facility exploded. Fire lit up the night sky. They washed up on shore, exhausted but alive. Echo shook out his fur, eyes alert. Jason met Maggie's gaze. What now? Maggie exhaled. They'll keep looking for him. Jason clenched his jaw. Then we keep running. Jason bought an old truck with the last of his savings. Maggie hacked into the government's database, erasing their records. And Echo? He sat in the passenger seat, watching the road ahead. Before they left, Jason found a single envelope in his pocket. It was from Maggie. Inside was a note. They will never stop looking. But neither will we. Take care of him. Jason looked at Echo. Guess we're in this together, huh? Echo licked his hand. Jason smiled. By morning, they were ghosts. New identities. New lives. The government would never stop searching. But neither would Jason. He would keep Echo safe. No matter what. Years later, rumors spread. A dog, too intelligent to be normal. A man, always one step ahead of the government. They became a myth. A legend. And somewhere in the shadows, Echo watched. Always listening. Always waiting. Because some secrets were never meant to be buried. What would you do? If you discovered a secret the world was never meant to know, would you expose it or protect it at all costs? Jason risked everything to save Echo, but their fight isn't over. The government is still searching, the truth still buried. What do you think happened next? Did Jason and Echo ever find peace, or is their battle just beginning? Let us know in the comments. And if you love this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales with unexpected twists.